In a bustling Chicago bank, a CEO's rash decision to call the FBI on a black woman he deemed suspicious backfired spectacularly when agents arrived and saluted her, revealing a truth that turned a routine transaction into a viral lesson in humility. Dr. Maya Ellison was 45, a black woman with a commanding presence and a resume that could silence a room. As the director of cybersecurity operations for the U.S. Treasury Department, she oversaw critical systems protecting the nation's financial infrastructure. Her work was classified, her profile low, and her days spent navigating high-stakes meetings in D.C. But on April 22, 2025, she was in Chicago for a rare personal errand, depositing a $250,000 check at First National Bank, a gift from her late mother's estate to fund a scholarship in her name. Maya had grown up in Chicago's South Side, where her mother, a schoolteacher, instilled in her a drive for excellence. She'd earned a PhD in computer science from Stanford, served in the Army's cyber warfare unit, and climbed the ranks at Treasury. Her role required discretion. She didn't advertise her title, and her business casual attire that day, a blazer and slacks, gave no hint of her authority. She carried a government-issued ID, a personal debit card, and the estate check, endorsed to her name. The bank was busy that morning, with a line of customers stretching to the door. Maya waited patiently, her check and ID ready. At the counter, she handed them to a teller, a young woman named Emily, who glanced at the check and hesitated. The amount was large, and Maya's calm demeanor didn't match Emily's expectations of a high-net-worth client. "I'll need to verify this," Emily said, her tone professional but cautious. Maya nodded, accustomed to extra scrutiny. She'd faced it before. Banks, airports, even boardrooms. It came with the territory of being a black woman in spaces where people assumed she didn't belong. Unbeknownst to Maya, the bank's branch manager, Richard Holt, 52, was watching from his office. Holt was the CEO of a regional investment firm that partnered with First National, often using the bank's VIP services. He'd been alerted by Emily's supervisor about the large deposit and decided to intervene. Holt had a reputation for being controlling, quick to judge, and protective of his bank's image. Seeing Maya, black, unassuming, and unfamiliar, he assumed the worst. He'd read about check fraud cases in the news and decided, without evidence, that Maya's transaction was suspicious. Holt approached the counter as Emily processed the check. "Ma'am, step aside, please," he said, his voice clipped. Maya turned, her expression calm but firm. "I'm in the middle of a transaction," she said. Holt didn't back down. "We're having issues with this check. I need you to wait in my office." Maya raised an eyebrow. "What issues?" she asked. Holt didn't elaborate, just gestured toward his office. Customers nearby started whispering, sensing tension. Maya stood her ground. "I'd like to speak to your supervisor," she said. Holt's face tightened. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not in his bank. "This is a serious matter," he said, loud enough for others to hear. "We're contacting the authorities." Maya's eyes narrowed, but she didn't raise her voice. "Do what you need to do," she said, folding her arms. Holt pulled out his phone and called a contact at the FBI's Chicago field office, a move he'd bragged about before. His firm's connections gave him access to law enforcement for security issues. He described Maya as a potential fraud suspect, attempting a large, questionable deposit. The call was brief, and Holt hung up with a satisfied nod. "They're on their way," he told Maya, expecting her to panic. She didn't. Maya sat in the waiting area, checking emails on her phone. She texted her assistant in D.C., letting her know she might be delayed. Customers watched, some uneasy, others curious. A retiree named Margaret, 67, who'd overheard the exchange, leaned over. "This isn't right," she whispered. Maya smiled faintly. "It'll be fine," she said, though her jaw was tight. She'd dealt with prejudice before, but this was bold, calling the FBI over a routine deposit. She knew her credentials would clear things up, but the humiliation stung. Within 15 minutes, 2 FBI agents arrived, a man and a woman in dark suits. The bank went quiet, all eyes on them. Holt rushed to greet them, pointing at Maya. "That's her," he said. She's trying to deposit a fraudulent check. The agents approached Maya, who stood to meet them. The male agent, Agent Carter, glanced at her and froze. "Dr. Ellison?" he said, his tone shifting from formal to deferential. The female agent, Agent Ruiz, nodded in recognition. "Ma'am," she said, offering a slight salute, a gesture of respect for her rank. Holt's face went pale. The agents turned to him. "What's the issue here?" Carter asked. Holt stammered, repeating his fraud concerns. Maya handed over her ID and the check. "It's from my mother's estate," she said. "Verified by her lawyer. Call them if you need to." Carter didn't need to. He knew Maya's name from interagency briefings. Her work at Treasury was critical to national security. "This is a misunderstanding," he said, his voice firm. "Dr. Ellison is a senior official with the Treasury Department. This check is legitimate." The bank erupted in murmurs. Customers pulled out phones, recording the scene. Margaret, the retiree, clapped softly, her face beaming. Holt tried to backtrack. "I didn't know, I was just protecting the bank," he said. Agent Ruiz cut him off. "You escalated this without evidence. That's reckless." Maya spoke up, her voice steady. "I'd like an apology, and I want this documented." Holt mumbled an apology, but Maya wasn't done. She turned to Emily, who'd stayed silent. "You did your job. This isn't on you." Then she looked at Holt. "You assumed I didn't belong here. That's the problem." The agent stayed until Maya's deposit was processed, ensuring no further issues. As they left, Carter shook her hand. "Sorry you had to deal with this, ma'am," he said. Maya nodded. "Not your fault." She completed her transaction and left the bank, head high. Behind her, customers were already posting about the incident on X, with videos of the agent's salute going viral. By evening, #BankMistake was trending, with thousands praising Maya's composure and condemning Holt's actions. The fallout was swift. First National's corporate office issued a statement, announcing an investigation into Holt's conduct. Leaked emails later showed he'd been warned about profiling customers before, but his connections had shielded him. This time, the public outcry was too loud. Holt was suspended, and by June 2025, he'd resigned from his firm. The bank implemented mandatory bias training, citing the incident as a wake-up call. Maya's scholarship fund, named after her mother, launched successfully, supporting 10 Chicago students in STEM fields. Maya returned to D.C., where her colleagues rallied around her. The Treasury Secretary called personally, offering support. Maya downplayed the incident, focusing on her work. But at a cybersecurity conference in July, she spoke briefly about it. "Assumptions can cost you," she said. "I'm here to do my job, not prove my worth." The audience gave her a standing ovation. The story of that day in Chicago became a case study in corporate training, a reminder that power doesn't excuse prejudice, and that truth can turn a confrontation into a moment of reckoning.